Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1128A, and today's date is November 15th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Bail-ins Begin in Italy. Bondholders are tapped first. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with David Morgan. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So you can go right over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you to that YouTube channel. You can play the video there. Or you can come over to the X22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You can play it there. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, out in Greece, the corporate media is out there, and they are continually trying to convince the world that Greece, they're coming out of the recession. Actually, they were in a depression. If you look at the unemployment numbers and you look at all the information, it is a complete disaster. But they're telling the world right now that Greece is improving, and they're using statistics, and we know they manipulate statistics like GDP, unemployment, and we know that the unemployment rate in Greece is around 25% or so, which means that they're on a full recovery. But we can see right now they're using GDP, and they're saying the gross domestic product increased by 0.5% in the last 3 months to September from the previous quarter, and they're saying that they are getting ready to go full steam ahead, and most likely next year their GDP is going to be about 2.7%, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the reason why they're doing this is because they want to show that the central banks, they have the ability to help a country make it recover while putting them into debt, more debt, and a lot more debt that they can't handle. And remember, at this point in the world, the central bank, they need to prove that the economy is doing well. And they need to show certain countries that, yes, see, they're doing well, the economy's okay, everything is fine. This is what they do before the system comes down. They need to show that everything's fine. And we can see that Greece's creditors last month released about 2.8 billion euros for the country's 86 billion euro bailout program. Now, they just gave them more debt. But one thing that we're not seeing is that how did they improve the economy? Well, we know that there was austerity, that they were raising taxes, pensions were cut, public assets were transferred, there was privatization, and the EU was funding the refugee crisis in Greece, where if they take more refugees in, they will pay Greece. And some experts say the economic growth came partly on the back of EU's extra funding for Greece to cope with the massive influx of migrants. And we can see right now, from everything that they've done economically, it really hasn't improved the country at all. It's all this debt that they're pouring into the country and the manipulation of these numbers that made it look like Greece is doing much, much better. Remember back in 2008 going forward when they gave them the first tranche and they said everything is fine here. Greece is back on its feet and it's fine. Then all of a sudden, 2011 came, 2013 came, 2015 came, and they kept ending up in the same problem. Well, they're going to end up in the same problem. Nothing has changed. All they have is more debt. They sold off their assets. They raised taxes on whoever is left working. They cut public pensions, and nothing's really improved. Here in the United States, the corporate media is making a really big deal about retail sales. Everything's back on track. We're all set for the holiday seasons. Everything is fantastic. And they're out there saying that U.S. retail sales, well, they beat expectations in October. We're up by 0.8%. We only thought we were going to hit 0.6%. This is incredible. They went back to September. They revised those numbers up. And when you look at this, and you look through everything the corporate media is telling us, we find out, why did this really happen? Well, it was the gas prices once again. They shot up by 2.2%, and all of a sudden, they added that in, and they said retail is up. But when you look at furniture, department stores, food services, they all saw declines. I mean, if you look at furniture, for instance, what did you see? You saw furniture was down by negative 0.9%. If you looked at department stores, we see that was down by negative 0.7%. Food service and drinking places down negative 0.7%. So retail is not doing as well as they're making it out to be. And actually, if you look at the money of where it is and what people are purchasing, now, it doesn't mean they're taking it out of their pockets. This could also be loans, because the first three top categories for sales is motor vehicles, food and beverage, and food service and drink places. So people like to drive, drink, and eat. That's pretty much it. That's what people are doing today. And we can see right now that the motor vehicles, well, they're not even using their own money. Most of the people are getting loans. And with food and beverage, most of the people are using credit cards to go out to eat or just to buy food. And what we're seeing is that year-over-year numbers and non-store growth suggest that more stores will be closing and fewer stores will be opening, which means less jobs, inventory is going to build up, and this whole thing's going to be a complete disaster. When we're talking about automobiles, what's very interesting in Edmunds in the third quarter of 2016, their used vehicle market report, it reveals that many of the same problems afflict the used auto market as it did the new car market. And what they're saying is that the percentage of used cars being traded in with negative equity values continues to spike and currently stands at all-time high of 25%. Most of the people are underwater in their used car, because what people are doing, they're just rolling their negative equity into their new loan. And many used car buyers are sitting on loans where 15 to 20% of their outstanding balance simply reflects their negative equity from their previous car, and they continually do this. And what we're seeing right now is most likely this Ponzi scheme, well, it's going to come crashing down at some point. It always does. I know people like to argue that, oh no, it's going to be fine. It always crashes at some point. Something triggers something else in the economy, and then all of a sudden it's a domino effect and it hits all of these economic sectors here. We see the Empire Fed, it rebounded after last month's slide, but we see that employment indicators have tumbled, optimism has declined, and again, we're seeing this bounce around during the holiday season. And if we go back to last year or the previous year or the year before that, the Empire Fed was much higher. Right now, it's a little bit over 0 at 1.5 because it bounced back up. But if we go back to the same period of 2015, it was around 5. If we go back to 2014, it was at 10. So we can see right now we are still in a downward trend, and most likely it's going to drop considerably right after the holidays. We see the bail-ins have started out in Italy. Monte Paschi, well, they are beginning the bail-ins. And we can see right now that this whole thing is finally a fact. Ever since the bank failed the ECB's latest stress test this summer, when it was advised that it needs to raise billions in capital, well, no one was willing to source the money that they needed. So the bank board met on Monday. They set the terms for bond to equity conversion. That is part of the lender's capital boosting plans. As part of their sweeping restructuring, they're planning to lay off about 1/10 of its staff, shut branches, sell assets, and they're going to do a bail-in where they're going after bondholders. And what they're going to do is they're going to offer to target bonds for a total outstanding amount of about 4.289 billion euros. Will offer between 20 to 100% of nominal value in bond swap offer. Holders of the 4.5 billion euro of bonds will be able to convert them to shares. So we can see already they're tapping the bondholders, and as this bank sinks deeper and deeper, they will tap the next level, then the next level, and then eventually move into the depositors. We see right now financial conditions, they are tightening at an alarming pace. The Biz issued a warning that the strong dollar may simply signal a far greater financial system risk as a result of the global dollar fund shortage. And what they're saying is that if the Fed decides to raise rates, we might have a major problem like we saw in 2015 and early 2016 that sent the market into a sharp correction. And we can see right now the economy is still in trouble. Nothing's changed. And most likely, as we've been talking about, these individuals in the shadow government, the central bank, they understand the economy is doomed. And we know that they're preparing for QE4. And who knows? Trump most likely will be the catalyst for this. Because as we can see, they need to change their plans once again. Because everything that we talk about, it doesn't mean that these individuals, their plans are going to come true. We can see what course they're set on. We can see what they're planning to do. We can look at the indicators. But again, sometimes their plans don't go as the way they want. Sometimes they get messed up. Like they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to get into the White House. They were absolutely sure about it. I mean, if you look at the corporate media and you listen to the government, Obama, and everyone out there talking about the election, they made it like it was a joke that Trump even had a chance. So they were all set to go forward with their plan of bringing us into a war, covering up the economic collapse. Now that Trump is going into the White House, plans have changed. Wild card. I mean, will he move to the dark side? We don't know yet. But we can see right now that a lot of things are off the table. Where they were going to use war and an event to cover up the collapse, well, they can't do that right now. Can they use Trump to blame everything on him? Of course they could. And we see right now, they already mentioned QE4. The Fed already came out and said, listen, if we enter an economic crisis, we can do another round of quantitative easing, between 2-4 trillion. I think it's going to be a lot more than that because the economy is doing a lot worse than they believe. They're already setting it up saying that Obama did an incredible job recovering the entire economy and everything is back on track. And this is what the central bank, shadow government, those in the inside, this is what they do to convince you that everything is fine right before the system comes down. Actually, if you look back to 2008, what did they do? They tell us that everything is contained, everything is fine, housing prices don't come down. The subprime securities, they're AAA. We don't know what they're talking about when they say they're junk. It makes no sense. That must be fake news. But when then we come to learn that all of that was just talk, they knew everything was a complete disaster. They knew the economy was coming down. And what they do is they build it up until the very, very last minute that everything is fine, and they bring it down. This is what they're doing right now. They have to show that the economy is fine. So what we're seeing right now is a huge push to let everyone know that we have recovered. And we know that this is not true whatsoever. We know that this economy has been deteriorating, declining, collapsing for many years. And all the economic indicators that we've been looking at have gotten worse and worse and worse. Actually, we're following the same track that we followed back in 2008. And at one point, all of this is just going to collapse in a split second. But we will know the truth because we have been following it. We will be prepared because we have been following it. And if you haven't started to prepare right now, I suggest you do. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.